All right, so I hit that magical record button and then I pretend I'm a professional and we'll do a little countdown in three, two, one. Hello, the internet. Matthew here for another great episode of Something Creative. And I have for you all today a very wonderful, creative, and inspiring young lady. She is a cosplayer in the local scene here in New York. She is fun and fantastic. It is the one and only Mom the Cosplayer. So, Mom, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I really appreciate it. So now we go way back to the summer of 2019. It really seems like a decade ago by now. And
It feels really long ago.
it definitely feels long ago. But it was actually Brooklyn Comic Con, and
Yes.
yeah. I encountered you and your friend, and I was actually really amazed at what you were doing in terms of your cosplay, the quality of your work, your attitude, the energy you give off, and there's a lot there I think people need to know more about. So again, thank you for doing this, and let's take a nice quick dive into when and why and how you got into cosplay.
I got into cosplay, I would say it was mildly, on a whim. It was a complete whim in 2014. So it was like August 2014. And my son, who had just turned 11 at the time, was really into anime with me. And I thought, hey, let's go to New York Comic Con. I always wanted to go to New York Comic Con for years. So I said, let's go. And I told my best friend, who is also a cosplayer, Cat's on my cosplay. Her name is Vanessa. And I said, yeah, let's bring this kid to Comic Con and it'll be fun. So my daughter at the time was into another anime, and one of her really good friends also wanted to go to Comic Con. So we got these tickets and we got Thursday. And it was back in the day where you could just call up and just get a ticket in August for an October, Comic Con. Now, I think a lot of people will say 2014 was the last year that New York Comic Con was like normal.
Right.
And we just got Thursday night ticket, and I ordered. I have no shame ordering. I ordered off of eBay, probably, like these Attack on Titan cosplays, and I was Hanji-san, and my son was Eren Yeager, and I tried to get him to be Levi, and he would not. He was like, no, it would be Eren. And my daughter and her friend cosplayed characters from Black Butler. She was a femcl, and her friend, no, I'm sorry, and her friend actually was Honey Senpai from our high school club, something like that. So very cute. We all looked great. We go down there, and we didn't know what to expect. We took the train in, and people are taking pictures, and we're like, wow, is this a thing? Yeah. And we walk into Comic-Con. I would say it was a life-changing experience. We couldn't get over how many people stopped us to take pictures, how many fans were just, so excited and coming up to us and saying, oh my gosh, did you read the last, volume of the manga? Did you see the episode in this? And there was such an energy, and it was so much fun. We just connected with so many people. I can't tell you how many kids ran up to my son and hugged him. We were hooked. We were completely hooked. I said, we have to do this next year. Let's think of a cosplay and let's create. And after that, we didn't realize there were so many cons around. And suddenly cons started popping up. We went to the following, we waited a whole year, put the cosplay aside, planned out our cosplays, waited a whole year to go to New York Comic Con. Went again, had a great time, went for 2 days instead of one. And then we went to Big Apple after that, because I was like, wow, there's another con to go to. There's more cons. And that's when it started rolling into just seeking out more cons and going, that energy, that excitement, the planning, the sharing of fandoms. It just was addictive. It just hooked us, So that's pretty much how it happened.
All right. So that and it was funny you say that time period. That's actually kind of like the golden age of the New York con scene. So I remember years ago, back in the early 2000s, I'm from the island, and started going to Icon for a few
Mhm.
years out in Stony Brook. Then I kind of fell off of it for a little while. And then the last couple of years, I kind of got back into cosplay. But by the time we ran into each other, you seemed like a seasoned veteran already after just a few years. So you must have really hit the scene running, huh?
I think what happened was no, that I'm actually I'm an artist. So I don't think I'm an artist. I'm an artist. I paint and I draw. And creating is something I just do. It's something that's fun, and expressing myself through creation and through art, just part of who I am and what I do.
Mhm.
And so, discovering cosplay was discovering just another medium for self-expression.
Mhm.
And after a while, when I started, and of course having one of my best friends be my cosplay ride or die, we would talk about it, we would plan, we would say, what fandom can we do, what pairing can we do.
Right.
And then we started looking online and trying to find ways of creating these things, and that sparked that excitement. So honestly, like, I think you met me when I was doing Psylocke. Was my easiest cosplay to put together. I mean, it if I told you, I'm a little ashamed. So, so New York Comic Con I think it was 2016.
Mhm.
It might have been 2016 or 2017. It was literally a week before New York Comic Con. I wanted to go as something different every single day, and I get a pro pass, so I had 4 days. So I was like, what could I do? And then I saw this other cosplayer do Psylocke, and Psylocke has been my favorite you know, X-Men icon since I'm literally 15 years old. I collected X Factor, X-Men, Classic X-Men, New Mutants, like those were my comics. That's what I read all the time. I didn't really gravitate towards Spider-Man or the Avengers or anything, because there was something about the X-Men, about being mutants with powers and being outcasts of society, that really, connected with me and echoed something inside of me. And Psylocke was just always that person I wanted to be. And so I said, why don't I do Psylocke? And a week before New York Comic Con, I went on Amazon and I ordered all the pieces, and she took me 3 days to pull together. So I think, like, hitting the ground running, I really didn't. I almost like stumbled and fell head over heels into cosplay, hit a couple of rocks along the way, a couple of disasters. But when I found the characters that I wanted to do, because they resonated a very deep personal side of me, those are the cosplays that I did the best, that I do the best and come easiest to me. Those are the ones that are, just appear to be great works of art and actually just works of love.
Okay. See, you are already getting to my next part, so you're already answering the questions for me. The reason I got into cosplay, or I should say, let me move away from when I got back into cosplay, was because I started this brand, Hero's Breath, all about the hero's journey. And it's
Mhm.
always been my belief that the characters that we gravitate to in science fiction, in comics and manga and whatever, is because they really do resonate with who we are. And that we end up, I always had this theory that the people who are always cosplaying the rogue, you're always cosplaying Han Solo, you're always a rogue when you play D&D, it's because you want that level of freedom and that level of bravado, and you're just a little timid. And every time I say it to somebody like that, they just kind of go, wait, what was your name again? Why do you know me so well? Because we reflect those things. And I appreciate the fact that you validated my theory by
I
expressing it.
Yeah. I actually have also a different level to it. So many of the characters that I cosplay, if anyone follows and cares, if you see some of the characters and I appreciate it, but if you see the characters that I do, I have several characters that are actually anti-villains and villains. Because I firmly believe that they're the characters that I pick do resonate. They just don't resonate. They don't just resonate what I see as the best part of me. They also resonate some of the weakest and most vulnerable parts of me. So I'll give you an example. Like I cosplay this character a lot. I cosplay Envy from Full Metal Alchemist, and that Envy is possibly one of my most favorite cosplays to do. His vulnerability, his, just the fact that he's so open about his jealousy and his feelings of inadequacy resonates many of my, some of my weaker parts of me, where sometimes there are moments where I do feel inadequate and I am a bit envious of others. And it doesn't overwhelm me, but they exist. And the fact that I can take on this character that I do feel sorry for, and they're, as evil as he is, he's flawed and he's weak. I recognize that I too am flawed and can be weak, and I feel connected to him. So, as many times as I am the hero, I have to accept the fact that I'm also the villain. And it's just that that war, of tug of war that we always have within ourselves. That comes out through my cosplay too.
It's funny. I was just saying this to someone today, and I feel embarrassed that I can't remember if it was Jung or Nietzsche who said, "No tree can reach up to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." And it's one of my favorite phrases. The fact that it's totally blanking on me, the authorship, but that I think encapsulates what you said. And before we started, I said, "Feel free to be as vulnerable as you want." So thank you for taking my advice and just running with it, because. But I can't express how much I love everything you just said so much.
Thank you.
Well, because I'm in recovery as an alcoholic, and that's a lot about what this brand is what Hero's Breath tries to express to people is everything you just said. So if I had to choose a brand ambassador, it'd be you right now, because that encapsulates everything I think the hero's journey itself has to talk about, has to show to people, has to express to people, is that level of vulnerability and accepting your dark side, accepting your shadow side, and integrating them. Wow, that was deep and great.
Yes, and I think that when we talk about heroes and we have this idea of heroes and what a hero is, I don't think a hero is someone who is socially perfect and not flawed. I think when you talk about your recovery and you're so open about your recovery and your healing process and what you've gone through, I think a hero is someone who's able to face the most dangerous villain of all, which is our own dark side, and stand up to them and be open about the struggle and overcoming it. I think that's a lot more courageous than the hero who fights an external monster or some, it's easy. Like I could take a sword or a gun or a machine gun or my laser vision and plow you down. But I sleep with this enemy and I wake up with this enemy and I look at this enemy every day in front of the mirror. And that's the enemy I have to contend with all the time. So I think that takes a lot more courage than just, your regular bad guy, good guy.
Yeah. And so let me, that actually brings up an interesting point. The fact that we have these characters. I mean, let's face it, for a long time, sci-fi and anime and it was kids stuff. It was referred to as kids stuff. It was very rare for a science fiction film or an action film of any sort to really do anything at the Oscars besides special effects. And now we're actually seeing in the last few years, best actors, best supporting roles, or at least people being nominated in Avengers films. And so it's becoming more mainstream, becoming more accepted. Do you think, and let me ask you this as a speculative question, do you think that is just sheer volume, that we've pumped out so many of these and the fans are responding to it, and that it's just by the nature of them being there? Or do you think it's really something expressed from within us, that our society is starting to accept that these stories have more validity than just the typical, emotional drama?
I think Hollywood is beginning to mirror the same depth of character that Marvel and DC have always had in their comics, and it hasn't really gotten over with mangas. Everybody knows, when you put a manga into a live action, it's just disastrous. I don't know why it can't happen, but you know, it's still, I'm sorry, I have like a hair on my forehead, it's driving me crazy, but we're gonna digress. Anyway, so I think that if you are an avid comic book reader, and you'll remember DC's Watchmen, you know, during the late 80s. I mean, the depth of character, the darkness, the political messages, the you know, the just that alone, and the strength of the storyline. Some arcs that were so amazing, you know, the Gauntlet arc, the rise of, you know, Fall of the Mutants arc, Apocalypse arc. There were so many great stories, and Hollywood just wasn't grasping that energy and that depth in their Hollywood movies. And I think in the last 10 years they started doing that with more of the Marvel movies. It wasn't just a shoot 'em up and here's bad guy versus good guy. It was more of us seeing the characters as they truly are, as, you know, real people with real issues and struggles with these extraordinary circumstances. So I think that Hollywood has started in the last 10 years to really capture that essence that comic books, that DC and Marvel and many independent comic book companies have had all this time. I think one of the biggest you know, I don't want to say drops, like, you know, they dropped the ball on this one. Hollywood, they dropped the ball on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, I'm revealing my age, but I used to read the black and white Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics in the early and mid 80s that were very scratchy, very rough, very violent, very graphic. April was a black character. She was not white. And she was a powerful character until they snapped her neck. Anyway, so, you know, they were just, it was violent and it was real, and it had many messages about society, and it was very symbolic of what was going on in, you know, in the streets and in cities. And then Hollywood took a hold of it and made it into a kiddie film. So I think that that's what's happening. I don't think it's so much us, and I don't think it's Marvel or DC. I think Hollywood had to step up and, you know, really reflect that energy that always existed.
Well, excuse me. Well, you know, it's funny because that's what Young and Campbell and more recently, you know, minds like Dr. Peterson have talked about, that these characters do reflect something of us, and the fact that the story
Absolutely.
and that the hero's journey is reflective in all these great stories. It's funny. It's Frozen. I'm going to shift a little to Disney. I think Frozen is something that shows exactly why the heroes, or the monomyth, is so important, because Frozen was good, but it didn't follow that story structure the way so many other stories have. And then Frozen 2 comes out, and it's almost like everyone forgot Frozen, and just Frozen 2 is the movie, because that vibrates with us, because our lives do go in this story arc. So as I say, like when Hollywood starts taking these stories more seriously, because they are designed to follow that Campbellian monomyth structure perfectly, it's a formula you almost can't lose with. And as you said, they're not just shoot 'em ups anymore. They're really, they draw out the depth. I mean, I get a lot of flack for this, but Man of Steel, I think it was brilliant, because they went into the depth and the character of who Superman was, not just as Clark Kent, but as Kal-El. So, and it's great vibing and being able to someone on this.
And I think that's why people were so affected by Joker. You know, I watched Joker several times already, and every time I watch, I know I have friends that cannot watch it anymore. Like my family's like, "What is wrong with you?" I could watch Joker from sun up to sundown. It's that type of movie for me. It's one of those movies, and I felt like, you know, it was so psychologically deep, and it was so real, and it was so raw in its message, and it was so graphic. And did it have a happy ending? You know, not really, but it kind of did. It's just an ending that's, you know, it's polarizing, because so many people just couldn't give you the same answer and couldn't give you the same response to that movie. Yes, it had a touch of the Batman story in it, and it toyed with that idea of Batman, becoming, but it also really got into the nitty gritty of Joker himself, which I think we all needed,
Yeah. And in many ways, it's funny you bring up that movie, because it almost wasn't even a Joker film. It was like a dark, gritty drama, and almost everything about that was painted on. But
Yeah.
it shows the universality of that human epic, of that human story. And
Yeah.
like you said, I want to go back to what you said in the beginning about when you started going to cons and having this, like, if people don't understand what the comic, what the convention scene is like, it's mostly this, just with more hugging. And that's the really cool part. And that's the really cool part. And as you said, the energy, but also this camaraderie, and being able to agree and to debate and to just have a lot of fun with it. And yeah, there's the chatty, queens and people and all the drama and everything that goes on with it, mostly with costumes falling apart.
Oh my God. I have so many stories about my costumes falling apart that it's sad. It's really sad. And of course,
it's part of the experience. It's part of the experience. It's something we all know.
Unfortunately, it is. It happens to the best of us. It really does. It really does. Can I have a sip of my wine, by the way? I'm sorry, you might edit this out, but can I sip my wine?
Sip away. Sip away. I mean, here I am.
I didn't know if you couldn't have it on the film.
No. I don't edit anything unless like something really bad goes on. But
like weed or something. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like if your background went on fire, we might have to trim it.
Okay.
But all this is staying in, by the way.
Okay.
Human. This is all a human experience. So
okay, it's a human experience.
So speaking of experience, your handle, your brand name, Mom the Cosplayer, fucking love it. It's so authentic. I mean, and I remember walking through the floor of Brooklyn Comic Con, and my girlfriend at the time all of a sudden yells out, "Mom!" And I'm just like, "Your mom's not here." I turn around and there's Psylocke. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
It's really funny. I get called that. It's hysterical. I'll be at cons, any con, and I don't mean to sound like this. It's not like, like you've been used me. It's not like that. It's just I will hear "Mom," and I turn around instinctively. I'm like,
Right.
Who needs a Band-Aid? Who needs glue? Like. And it's just so funny because that's just, I'll have people will DM me, "Mom, can I talk to you about something?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'll always say that's my first and most favorite job is mom. But it's funny because like the way the name came around, I love Soul Eater. Like that's one of my favorite animes. And there's a character named Death the Kid. And it's Death the Kid because in Japanese it's, Kid Death, but the way it's translated is Death the Kid, which I always thought was the coolest freaking name in the world for a character, Death the Kid. And I was going to do Cosplayer the Mom. And I guess I had a brain fart and I wrote Cosplayer and I put it through Instagram and I was like, I can't change it. And there you go. It was born. There you go.
Works so well. It works so well. Actually, I just remembered as we were driving there, I remember her and we were with a couple other people. She says, "Oh, I hope Mom's there." "Oh yeah, Mom should be there." "Oh, I can't wait." I'm like, I had no idea what was going on. And then when I heard her yell "Mom," I'm like, "Oh, okay, now it makes sense."
So cute. And it's fun. Like I love, one of my favorite things about cons is meeting people, and some people that that I've met at cons have become very good friends of mine, like real friends. Yeah. And I think that, it taught me to just be very wary of people's feelings. And I'll say this, I'm a teacher for almost 25 years, and I have dealt and taught and nurtured, I can't tell you how many thousands of children, I would say thousands of children. It's no exaggeration. And I, when I meet people, I instantly know like what I'm working with. And it has brought me to sometimes to tears, because there'll be people, that have disabilities, or and as a disabled person myself, I'm very sensitive to people with disabilities. And it's sometimes my eyes, like I get teary eyed, because you have people, these amazing people that come up to you and they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited to meet you. And I'm like, you're excited, I'm excited. Like, I'm so excited to meet you. And thank you, because you just made me feel amazing, because you're amazing. So I think that's one of the greatest parts about cons, is you meet so many different types of people of all ages and all abilities. And, you're blessed to have that opportunity, and a lot of people don't.
That, man, you're making this easy, but you're making this hard at the same time, because
I'm so sorry.
no. And you have so much depth there in this, and people are gonna, like I said, sometimes people are quick to judge. They're like, oh, this is just a kid's thing. It's like, no, there's so much going on here, and this real community. And I think you are really encapsulating the heart of what cosplay is and has been and can be. And I really applaud you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So, all right, normally I end with a specific question. We're going to get to that. So, I have 2 questions left. I have one
Okay.
more question about, where do you see cons and cosplay going now with this COVID stuff? Let's not even try to project when it will end, or if we're going to get back to normal. Or do you see there being like, how can we shift? How can we keep this energy that we're talking about here going? Because Zoom is, Google Hangouts, all that stuff's okay, but how are we going to keep the community alive? What would be your idea to keep that vibe happening?
I think people have to, first of all, people have to accept the fact that dressing up came way before cons.
Okay.
We were little kids at one point, putting bed sheets around our necks and running around. Yeah, eons ago. Eons
ago, yeah.
I remember putting literally my bed sheet around my neck and running around thinking I was Supergirl. And that made me happy. I think that people have to, I'm seeing a lot of people using apps to do photo shoots. There are opportunities to do photo shoots and to post on social media. That makes people happy. People are using TikTok to express themselves. I, just started going on TikTok. So I think people just have to continue to put their eye on the prize. I think, the most important thing is being safe and being healthy and protecting other people as well as yourself. I do see by mid next year, maybe we can start planning on cons, if not smaller events, hosting, small events, socially distant and responsible events. I think the only way people can keep their community alive is by nurturing, first of all, fostering and nurturing relationships, people that you meet at cons that you talk to. Why are they not your everyday friend? Right. Checking in on people just to check in on them, having real conversations. And that's one of the best things that comes out of cons is, creating relationships with people. I think if people focus in on that now, maybe do a couple of outdoor shoots, get creative, that could help us get through the next year. I don't have any big answers. Sometimes I sit, listen, I'm going to be 50 in like 2.5 years. And, I think about the ticking time going by. And I'm like, as long as it makes me happy, I'm going to continue doing it. So I think people just have to sort of relax and, again, foster your relationships and enjoy what you do. It will happen again. It will.
All right. Well, Superman might want to walk around talking about hope, but you're embodying it. So I appreciate that.
I try.
I love it.
I try.
I love it. I don't think you try. I don't think you have to try. I think that's
Thank
naturally
you.
part of you. So the question I ask everybody who is gracious enough to come on the show is, what would you tell the person who is sitting on the fence right now, dipping, dabbling, thinking about getting into cosplay and saying, oh, maybe I'm not the right age or the right shape, or I don't know, or what would you tell them? Somebody who wants to cross that threshold to get into cosplay, what would you say?
Um, I have come across that, and I'll say the same thing I always say to people, that when you're at an old age and you're in bed and you're dying, and you know your hours are numbered, and you know there's no turning back. Think about the things you're going to regret, the things you didn't do. You're
Mhm.
not really going to regret the things you did because they happened and you've made peace with them. But you're going to mostly regret the things you didn't do. And if you didn't do something out of fear of judgment, and if you didn't do something out of fear of failure, then that itself is not living. You're going to be unhappy. So what's the worst that can happen? You you bomb at it. Like, who says you're going to bomb at it? Just do it. Be happy. And there is no age limit. I think that you have to make peace with yourself and know, okay, life is short. We've seen that this year. Life is short.
Yeah.
There is no telling what tomorrow brings us. There just is no telling. And rather than sit there and wish you had done something, you should sit there and wish you had more time to keep doing it. And that's what I tell people. I've been told in the past, like when I was gonna, I'll never forget this. One of my really good friends, I told her I was gonna do katana for Mortal Kombat, and she said, "You think a woman your age should be dressing like that?" And that stirred up a fire in me. I was like, now I'm 110% gonna do this. And not only am I gonna do it, I'm gonna make sure I get the skimpiest outfit I could possibly get. And I did, and it was fantastic. Katana's one of my favorite cosplays to do. Yeah, just don't live your life in fear. Just take a healthy, good risk. Cosplay is healthy. It's fun. It's creative. If you feel like a hero or a villain, it's yours, and it's yours forever.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Along the bottom of the screen and at the end here is a title card with everywhere people can find you. Check the YouTube description for more links. And I hope to see you, not just in the digital world, but in the real world very
I
soon.
hope so too. Absolutely.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you, hon. So, from Matt and Mom the Cosplayer, this has been another amazing episode of Something, Something, Something Creative. Catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.